We are live. So, hello guys and girls. I'm Alex McCann from Altrincham HQ, and this is Alex and his sisters, and we're here for our interview with Nazia. I think it's Haque or Hague. How do I pronounce it, Nazia?
Haque.
Haque. Nazia Haque, who is a financial planner, and we first met. We're just discussing this. We first met about 7 or 8 years ago when Nazia worked at a financial planners in Bolton. And we've sort of kept in touch over LinkedIn over the years. But the reason I mentioned the Clubhouse side of things before was because it was Clubhouse where I first heard Nazia's story behind the job title. I actually got to know her more in depth and know her as a person. So the sort of tagline is overcoming life's challenges has given me a unique perspective on how to help protect people, help people to protect their family's financial future. So we're going to talk lottery wins, financial independence, and their financial education for children. So we're going to go right back to the beginning, Nazia. So you said that you kind of grew up in a financially disadvantaged home. What was life growing up, and where did you grow up? Was it Bolton?
No, I grew up in Huddersfield, and you can only look at life when you grow up and look back and think that actually you were disadvantaged. You don't know then, do you really, that you were? You may feel it a little, but you didn't. So my dad was a bus driver, and my mom basically was a stay-at-home mum, and I lived in a 2-bedroom terraced house, shared a bedroom with my sisters, and I remember clearly having one of them storage heaters that would travel around the house to warm the rooms before bedtime. I remember having the bathroom in the cellar, and how, you know, you didn't have these combi boilers, you know, there was like a run of hot water and stuff. So going back, I clearly remember wanting a coat, and you got one coat, and that would have to last as long as it was still fitting you, and then you'd get the next one, not like some of the kids where they'd have several pairs of different things, so you got the shoes when you needed the shoes. But was I disadvantaged in the sense that I didn't have all the probably material things, but my home life was good. We shared, you know, we had one bike between 5 of us, and we had one computer when Commodore 64s came out between us all. So there's a lot of sharing going on, but we played. We had a fun childhood, which wasn't material in any way. It was just playing out. Weekend consist of big breakfast and out we went. And life began by adventuring down to the local stream or a derelict house, which health and safety would have killed us in today's age. But that was life. And it was disadvantaged in the sense, yes, I didn't grow up in a privileged home in that sense. So a lot of sharing. And then later I had to move into a council house, but I'll go into more detail with that later. But by the time I was 15, we had to move to a council house. My dad had passed away. So yeah, that was pretty much my childhood. Good memories, but we didn't have everything, but it's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, a real sort of sense of family, community, sharing, as you said. So you just mentioned it then. Obviously, your dad sadly passed away when you were age 15. How did you deal with such a huge loss at that time?
It was I was classified, unfortunately or fortunately, the favourite child. So I was very, very close to my dad. And he died at a point when, at age 11, my mum and dad decided to relocate back to Pakistan, a decision that they had made. So off we went, and my dad was still working in the UK and would come back, you know, he'd do 3 months here. And however, it created a pattern, but he was working here. And at age, just before I got to age 50, my dad was back, and he was at a point where I think he was able to take early retirement. So he was going to move back. That was the big plan. And he had to announce that he now had cancer. And I remember being called into his bedroom, and one by one, he asked us this key question, which was, what would you like to do? He was asking us, what would we like to? Would you like to stay here? Because we were now in Pakistan, living what you call a privileged life. And because money goes a long way there, so we were living in a 5-bedroom mansion, you would say, with ensuite bathrooms, a cleaner. So we went from underprivileged to being quite privileged in many ways. And I just went to my dad, look, Dad, I want to go back home. England is my home. It's where I want to be. And I also kind of knew where the poverty line was there. and without a dad, and what the society pressures were going to be like. So I had a bit of insight. We literally remember my dad suffering from cancer, and he was given like 3 months to live, and packing that stuff, selling the household goods to return back to what was that 2-bedroom terrace cold house from a 5-bedroom with big gardens and a cleaner. And we all remember coming and landing and bringing our suitcases, and all the siblings being in one room on the floor because there was no furniture. It was an empty house. And my dad, had 3 months to live, but he actually lived for about 9 months. From that point, we ended up, he was very sick, so we got a council house because he was that ill. Obviously, he wasn't working now. He did have savings he was a saver, he was one of those that didn't buy things on credit. It was all about saving, that old way of doing things. And off we went to our council house, which is a 3-bedroom house. And a couple of months after he settled us in there, I recall my dad had stomach cancer, which spread all the way to his throat, and he was like quite a chunky man, but he became a skeleton near the end. And he was at home at this point, and I was, looking after him, not caring for him, just like spending time with dad. And I'd spray his throat and I'd tell him, Dad, you're going to be fine. And he'd say, no, I'm not going to be fine. I am going to die, and you need to do something for me. So because I was quite close, he'd give me all his documents, say, Mum won't understand this, you need to look after everything. And I think that's where I kind of had to grow up, ultimately. I think that's where the moment happened. I was given responsibility above and beyond what I needed at the time. My older siblings were in their own little world. I was just a different child, and I probably had that deeper connection. So I was left with documents, and I became the letter reader. So it was very tough when he died. But I think because I took on the responsibility of dealing with the post and getting my first job and all that, it wasn't like I used to sit there wallowing about the death of my father. I was just doing what I had to do. So yeah, it was tough, but he left enough life lessons for me, behind. And it's given me the essence of living life as if it's your last day. So I have this theory where I believe, and I never sleep on an argument, and I try to do my best on the day I've got. And if things don't work out, they don't work out. And I'm not a wallower, because I've learned that you could just be gone tomorrow. So what is the point, so that's partly why I ended up becoming a financial planner. And my journey very much talks about having the money and not having the money. So
So obviously you grew up in this very different background, disadvantage, advantage. You sadly lost your father, and then all during this you still studied, you still went to university. What were you studying when you went to university? Because not everyone went to. We've got to remember, not everyone went to university in the old days. It's not like now when like 90% of people go to university.
That's very interesting. You said that not everybody goes to university, and that is very, very correct. So was I a bright person at school? The answer is absolutely not. I was just about getting C's. I mean, you've got to remember, I was transported to another country, was brought back. I was already being bullied because I couldn't fit in with the girls anymore, or the boys, because I had a difference. I'd been with different group of children now. So my understanding with the pop music or what everybody was into, I just couldn't have it. And my mum wasn't going to buy me anything fancy to wear to go to school. And obviously I'm in that teenager era. I've got acne now, and I'm suffering from that, and I'm just getting the basic whatever you get. I'm not allowed to go out on trips because my mum's now ultra like putting the guard down, because she's now a widow. So my how the story goes is, my sister was 18 at the time, and she wasn't that bright either, but she was really into makeup and looking good and what you would do at that age. Well, my mum decided to marry her off, and that was the alarm bell that literally changed everything. I sat at night with a torch in my bedroom going, I've got to study, got to get out of here. If I don't get out of here, I'm in trouble. I'm going to get married to that. So I think my studying and my thing came from, I didn't want to get married, and I saw it as what is my exit strategy. So my exit strategy was, I went and got a little job. First I set up an Avon business and signed everything with my mum, and I started to do that whole profit and loss and doing the sheets. Then I started to work at Quick Save, but I used to study, and I paid for a private tutor. And, you know, paying £10 from my job money, you know, to get him to teach me how to write an essay. And that's what I paid for, because I wanted to be able to put my work. I wasn't good with English because I was bullied in my classroom. And I thought, how can I get to a point that I can pass these exams? I was good at maths, by the way. That was something I just naturally fell into. So I passed my exams. Very much, I mean, you've got to understand, my parents' evening consisted of me being the parent. And my mum sitting next to me, yeah, they're saying, oh, really good, great, okay, let's carry on. So I was my own parent, so I had to parent myself through that journey. And that's when I started to get the prospect of wanting to go to university. What do you do? So I had to get enough grades to be able to do A-levels. So that's what I did. And then I carried on having a tutor. I did much better with my A-levels. I stayed on at school and went to sixth form. I had never experienced even going to a movie at the cinema. I'd never experienced anything really, to be dead honest. So going to university was not educational. It was, oh my God, I need to experience life.
Yes.
Otherwise I'm going to not live it. So I then decided, got my A-level results, and I'd applied, and I was going to be a teacher, by the way, because the only role model I really had in my life were teachers that would give me that nurturing. So that's the only person I'd seen, really. So I decided that's what I'll do, because teachers, that Mr. Edward and whatever, really nice, and that's who I want to be. I want to be really nice and help people. So that help people came in. So I got my place at university to do a teacher's degree. This is at Leeds Trinity. And there was a light bulb moment. And I said, so if you do a 4-year course, yeah, you're going to be a teacher. But what if you don't want to be a teacher? So that's the moment I went through clearance. And I thought, what do I like? And I liked business. I always knew that I had this entrepreneurial feeling of business. So I found a course, and it was called Business and Biotechnology. What was biotechnology? I didn't know, but it sounded good. It sounded so like I was going to be something scientific. So it's great. I'll just do that one. It's a combination of both, a bit of science, a bit of business. Let's go with it. So off I trotted to university, but I still had another hurdle. My mum, no girl had ever been in my world to the university, and you don't leave home, you travel to university. But I didn't want to travel. I wanted to move. So how could I? So I think key is I became a very good negotiator. And how could I get out of the house but keep my mom thinking I'm going to be okay with this whole marriage thing, and I'm not going to go off and seek other men, and I'm going to keep on this path. So I said, Mom, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to Sheffield, but I can't travel. It's far too much distance. I'll come home every weekend. That's my promise to you. I'll come home every weekend. So I got my uncle from London to drive over to persuade my mum that I was a good girl and I should be allowed to go. And I remember turning up and rocking at university, getting the smallest room you could get in a house, the furthest distance away from university, because I wasn't going to be funded. I only had whatever student loan money I was going to get. And did I understand money? Absolutely not. All I knew was that I was going to get some money with filling these documents up, and off it would come. And so, yeah, and that's how I ended up doing the course I did.
Fantastic. So I'm going to put, I'm aware of time. I'm going to put the next two questions together because I'm sure there's going to be a million questions at the end of this. So I know this is a really important part of the story, but I'm going to put the two questions together. So you obviously, you went to university, you started studying, and then you came into some money with a lottery win. And yeah. I'm going to wrap this question up with the next question. So you again, it's like that balance between advantage and disadvantage sort of that keeps coming up again. So you won this lottery running, it changed your life in a certain way, but then fast forward a few years, you had marriage, divorce, ended up penniless. So tell us in brief, that's that tale from sort of winning lottery, how much, and so on.
So the university degree course I was doing was basically a gap year. My gap year consisted of traveling to Mansfield and working as a communications assistant for the NHS. And I remember catching the bus every day. You know, I wasn't driving, catching the bus, and I used to say to myself, why is it that I couldn't just be born in a rich family and have these things, you know? And I was literally only getting my expenses paid. That's what I got, okay? So I was just doing what I do and had some cash. I needed to catch the bus. The bus is there. I look at the bus and I go to the guy. I think lottery tickets had just come out. And I said to the guy, you know that lucky dip thing? Will you just get me one of them? I threw the £10 note down. He gave me the change. I got the lucky dip, shoved it in my pocket, and off I went. Months had gone by. I didn't think about it because I'd never played it. So it wasn't really something I intended to play. It was just a fluke on that day. And I come off the bus on another day. It was raining. Somebody left a sun paper on the seat of the bus. I'm reading it, looked at it, fine. I come off the bus and I'm like that. I just literally just flip open this paper, and some papers have the nudie girl on that page, don't they? Well, anyway, all I'm going to say is the nudie page, and I come from a family where, oh God, sort of thing. So I'm looking at that, and Chris Moyle is sitting there with like a half naked woman, and in the side script of it, there's a tiny little box that says unclaimed lottery winners. I just glance over it and don't think anything of it. And it's a cold day. I put my hands in my pocket and a ticket appears. And it literally sounds like I made this up, but honest to God. I take it out and I go, oh, and I look at the date matches. I look at the numbers match. I could not breathe. I was literally, we didn't have mobile phones, by the way. I'm just going to highlight. I didn't have a mobile phone. I couldn't breathe. And the amount was £120,000. And I'm going to declare it as it is. And I literally was going to fall on the floor. No mobile phone. I'm going through 1,000 emotions in this moment. And I walked to the closest red, phone box. I'm shaking, and it says to ring a number. So I ring the number, and the person on the phone said, right, you need to go home, hide the ticket. We're going to ring you on your landline, and you're going to be given a secret location to come tomorrow. I'm like, oh my God, this is all too much. I can't go. So I ring my mum up. I'm crying. They can't make headway. What the hell am I crying about? I couldn't. So I got to my accommodation. I shared a house with friends that are still friends today. And I locked myself, and all they can hear is me crying. I'm crying because this is really tough. I mean, I know people may not understand it, but it was extremely tough. And from that point, a lot of things did happen. I ended up going to counselling. I couldn't cope. It was a real tough journey. And do not be in any vision that a lot of money gives you some kind of other feeling. So I know what it gives you. It gives you a lot of anxiety too. But it's exciting. The story goes on how I got to Leeds and how I went to the secret location, how I got to the secret location. The following day, I got a taxi. My friend goes, taxi's going to cost us more. I said, no, I'm going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Let's just jump. So I took my best friend. I remember the National Lottery people saying, look, do you want a picture taken? I went, no way do I want a picture. What the hell? Because, we can put the story in the local paper. I said, no. You got to remember, I'm not comfortable with any of this. And they said, okay, I'm over the age of 18. I'm now 19 years old. So it's okay. They can give me that check. I don't need a guardian. If it was a little bit earlier, I would have needed a guardian. They then took a picture. They said, no, we need this for a HMRC because in case, for tax purposes, later on, we need to know that you've got this money. I remember, and I'm going to tell you this, them presenting me with 3 financial advisor cards, and I'm looking at them going, financial bloody advisors, what the hell do they do? What are they going to do for me? They're going to nick my money. They're going to try to get some commissions out of me. So I'm not going to bring any of these bloody, and they literally very nicely telling me, really, you need to get some advice. And I'm like, no, they're controlling me. I'm not having this. Off I go, thinking I know it. Obviously Halifax was my bank, and I thought, right, I've always banked with Halifax. I've got that savings account with my dad. I trust Halifax because it's a brand I knew. So if I trotted to Halifax, after lots of things happened in between, I gave half the money away to charity. And I think that money was the reason why I have what I have today. I couldn't cope with the money. I found it really hard. I think I got a semi-arranged marriage because they discovered I had money. So love and relationship comes into it. And I also discovered what a stock market crash looked like. And I lost money in, but I didn't have a good advisor. So all through that journey, got through a marriage, had children, paid my ex-partner's debts off, came out of the marriage with 0 money. I mean, we're talking now 2008, we've had another market crash, and I've not had a good advisor, not had a good marriage, and it doesn't matter if you've got the money, but if you don't know what you're going to do with it, you're in trouble. So education is key. By this point, I'd been headhunted by a big company in Canary Wharf to become an advisor. And it just landed at a time when I was penniless. How amazing is that? I went on the journey of becoming an advisor. So what the story has taught me, I wish I knew what I knew then, but I didn't. And that's what makes me uniquely different. I've been through it all. I know what you feel. I know the barriers that you have with advice. I understand it so much so. the myths, the scary words. And I think that's probably what makes me uniquely different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Really interesting. I didn't know you gave half of it away, which was even more outstanding. So so you went for this roller coaster. You obviously, you said you sort of were given cards of free financial advisors. Again, I've got 6 questions now to rattle through. So I'm going to go through some of these very briefly, some brief answers for some of these. How long did it take you to become a financial advisor, and what was your first few years like as a business owner?
Okay,
as a financial advisor?
So I got recruited by a company called Edward Jones. So they put me through what you call a fast track program. I became an advisor within, I think it was 4 months. It was really intense. I had to travel to London and stay there all week and study, and it was intense, as you can believe it. And I became a qualified stockbroker, and they were teaching me how to become an advisor and have a license and set my own business. But they closed shop in 2009. At the similar time, I was going through a divorce. I then went self-employed, and all I cared about was I wanted to be there for my children. So I was quite happy working small, but being there for my children, because my children were my biggest asset, in the sense, if I didn't do what I needed to do with them now, I'd be paying the price today. And I'm glad to be saying, as a proud mum, they're doing amazingly well. And yes, I am focused on my business today because I have put the foundation work in with them. So, and I have got a 3rd child now, but I can manage it because I've got experience. So I set up my business with another partner about 7 years ago. That didn't work out. Don't want to go into detail, but whatever reason it was, it's allowed me to set myself up, which I did 3 years ago.
Okay, fantastic. So would you say, as a financial advisor, you tend to attract clients like yourself, so female and divorced, or is it totally across the scale? Is it totally across the board?
Very interesting question, that. The truth is, it is across the board. Most of my clients have come organically to me. I have never paid for advertising or done anything. It's just like, my first clients were all friends and family. And from there, they've gone off and told other people, and it's just built and rolled. Clients that I had from 10 years ago are still with me. So I've literally traveled with my clients, even though I might have changed the umbrella name of my self-employed structure. I've traveled with my clients. So that's a real amazing feeling. And unfortunately, sadly, now I'm dealing with some of deaths as well, but I'm dealing with their children. And I love that longevity of giving advice. And I think, yes, I have it across the board, but I'm passionate about helping women.
Yeah.
And because I feel so strongly that women are not being fair to themselves, and it's time that changed, and they need to be more in control of finance and not so fearful of it. You can't manage something if you don't know where you stand or you don't understand things. So I am changing my makeup of my business. Don't get me wrong, I'll still help everyone, but I am going to focus more energy on women.
Yeah, fantastic. And that leads us to the next question, like, how do you market your services as such? Because it's surely about relationships first. And I know sometimes when you go to networking meetings, there's sexy businesses and there's necessarily maybe non-sexy businesses. And I guess financial advisors would maybe fit into the non-sexy. When you start talking pensions and, oh, how do you feel when you're 65? It maybe turns some people off. So how do you market yourself?
That's very interesting, but I'm going to ask the crowd here. Do you think that financial advisors are sexy or non-sexy? There's a little reaction thing.
Yeah, put it in the reaction or the chat.
Yeah. If you think it's sexy, put a heart. If you think it's not, just clap. Let's see.
There's a few sexies. There's a couple of sexies I've seen.
I'm liking the sexies. You know what? These sexies are people I know, so they're cheating a bit. They know I am. So anyway, so it's really amazing to watch and see. We all have varying opinion of a profession. Yeah, I did too. But I think that is changing with time, really, to be honest. And yes, I don't find pensions boring. I get really quite excited about them. And I think my vibe on the whole finance is really exciting, because what I'm trying to educate women is success does not equal money. but money is the foundation you need to build that success. Okay, so get that right. Just like communication is the key to a relationship when you're married or whatever, your children. If communication is the key, understanding your finance is the key to your success. Because if you can master that, everything else will just fall into place. Yeah, so it's about understanding what you should do and what you shouldn't be doing. Yeah.
Fantastic. So as well as obviously the business, the financial advice, giving advice to people of our age and younger, maybe older, one of the things that you think is really important is like financial education at school age. Because I seem to remember, I don't know what it's like now, but we never had financial education when I was at school. And I don't know if that's changed. It maybe has because of what you're doing, but tell us about that.
It is changing. It is in the curriculum to come in on board, but you know what it's like, it takes time. I already offer it as into schools where I give financial education, and it's probably born from my own passion. You've got to understand, I was given a student loan and had no one to talk to about money. I went and bought the most expensive items of clothes and I wasted it, and I wish I hadn't. Because I didn't have knowledge. I didn't understand what APR was. I didn't know what interest rate were. And I wish that children would know that. My children now know a lot more. And just to give you an example, he's recently got a maintenance loan and he's invested some of it because he's been given the knowledge of how not to waste his money, how to budget being the key word, how to work out what is essential we really need, what we desire, what we really would like. Knowing that difference and actually checking in and saying, I really fancy them, really nice coat, but do I really need it? Or is it just something I desire? What if I did put that money away? What would that give me for the future? It's about getting that balance. So yeah, I'm really passionate about financial education. There's no cost to it. I go in and I've taught quite a lot of children and every single one absolutely loves it because they're like, why didn't my mom tell me that? I didn't know this. Oh, I'm going to do this now. So it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, I mean, this wasn't a question, but it's sort of, there's very, very much a difference between, as you said, growing up in maybe a normal family or a disadvantaged family to growing up in a more affluent family. I remember I was managing a band when I worked in the music industry, and they were, all bar one were very affluent. And the dad was giving the book on how to win friends and influence people at 16 years old. And they go to a grammar school, so they're taught to be confident. And I don't think you get that if you come from like a normal background like mine, or as said, a disadvantaged background like you. So I think it's really important that all students and all young people get the advice.
Absolutely, and it's interesting because I don't want to get it wrong. I've met some really wealthy children that don't understand finance either. And now what I try to do with my clients is I said, look, you've got this money, it's great. You've grown it, you've worked hard, whatever. We need to now educate your children. You can't hide this money away from them. We've got to educate how they're going to manage it. What do you want them to do? So it's about transferring that knowledge to the next generation. And don't get me wrong, I don't think the advantaged families do it so effectively either. I think because ultimately what I'm saying is children don't always listen to parents. Truth. They want to know. It's amazing how the light bulb moment happened when I was listening to somebody else. And maybe that's why I had that connection with the teacher. Our education system is the biggest influence, and the community they live in. If they go play rugby, we raise children as a family, a big, massive family. It's not just from the parents. So what I believe is that as a community as a whole, we should all work together to really give back to that next generation.
Fantastic. So we've got two more questions. So I think the pandemic, maybe for a lot of us, has made us more aware of how financially insecure we can all be at certain times, because obviously a lot of businesses have either gone under or really struggled over the past 12 months. Do you feel like, similar to other methods of communication, like we're doing Zoom networking now and everything's sped up, do you feel financial information education, do you think we can take this moment to change the narrative on financial advice? Can it be sped up because of how people are thinking about money more? Absolutely. I think it's been, if people want to take it as a positive, I think if everybody goes back and looks at how much less money they've spent in the last 12 months, they're going to be all amazed. And it proves that simple point that we often live beyond our means. We get caught up in the sales tactics that have been used around us, to purchase when we don't need. And to really live within our means is actually a very peaceful place to be.
rather than live beyond our means and worry about paying that credit card debt. And I think because we've gone through COVID, borrowing is going to change. People are not going to get that free fall of money as they did previously so easily. Mortgages have become stricter. So there's a massive change. But again, change can happen all the time around us. It's those that want to make a difference and basically utilize that time. And it can only happen if you pause. And that is the truth, where you sit back and you pause and you really look at, where am I? What am I planning and why? And pause. And if you do that, you will understand that what your essential costs are actually not that much. You over doing it just because you're kind of trying to make yourself feel good. You're trying to keep up with everyone, and you don't need to do that. You know, we've learned that we can live with much less, and have things as rewards rather than monthly outgoings. Be careful with your money.
So I think you've sort of partly touched on this, but just before we finish and we open it up to questions, any general advice you can give us all that we can look at now rather than in 25 years? Because always it was like retirement seems ages away. What can we do now? If you had 2 or 3 points.
Okay, so very interesting. I looked at the money that I got, and if I had invested it, what I'd be worth. Today, I would have been worth, just on a mediocre investment that was getting me about 4 or 5% return, my £100,000 in 23 years would have grown to £1.2 million. Now you think to myself, oh my God, that much, how did it grow? So that comes to the point of, everyone, please take a moment, work out your essential costs, budget, and put that tiny bit, it doesn't matter if it's £5, 50, 100, put a little bit away in a good investment. When I mean good investments are investments that are going to give you the longevity and the growth. And with pound cost averaging, your money will make money for you. You don't even have to do anything. You don't have to work harder. So work smarter rather than harder. That's my thing. Pause, take a moment and really pause that time. So we did touch on Clubhouse and various platforms. Take yourself away and pause and be very clear and strategize what is your plan, rather than going to a cycle and a spiral, you know, letting your time get wasted. Build a positive relationship with money, because if you look deep down, all of you, you're going to have some moments where the reason why you are so driven is because you have scarcity, maybe. Reason why you work harder is because you lost money. So there's going to be something there. Or you might have met a person that was rich and thought, I never want to be that person because they were rich and that makes me feel uncomfortable. Get comfortable with uncomfortable. Work out what your uncomfortables are. So that brings me to a point where I'm actually doing some female-only workshops where I will be covering a lot of this, building relationship with money and budgeting, and how to really have that respect with money, and how it's okay to have that conversations with your partners about, where do I stand? Forget the love in marriage, where do I financially stand as well?
Oh, fantastic. So that's been a really interesting story. It's been some really helpful tips as well. Thanks so much for your time, Nazia. That's been really amazing. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, guys, for giving me this amazing opportunity. Thank you, Alex, as well. Thank you.